Some examples here. We've gotten to the point where we're tipping for things that's absolutely unheard of. Have you ever bought a beer and then the attendant flips the iPad around and there's like that weird, awkward moment where you're pressured to tip? Let's talk about it here on Titan Culture News Pod. I'm your host, Leland. I want to get some stuff off my chest about this over the top tipping culture that we currently are living in. Um, it's way over the top. Let's be real here. And I don't know where it actually began, but everybody knows the standard. It's usually about 20% at a sit-down restaurant. That's been the standard for decades. And you base that off performance, right? Well, somewhere along the way, we've gotten to the point where, and I'm going to give you some examples here, we've gotten to the point where we're tipping for things that's absolutely unheard of. Just for the fun of it, I asked ChatGPT what are some examples of tipping that has expanded beyond its original purpose. Self-checkout kiosk. I mean, that's insane. Never would I ever tip on a self-checkout. If I'm doing it myself, no, I'm not tipping. I mentioned the thing about the coffee and the breweries. My rule is if I'm standing up, I will not tip. I'm not giving a tip for someone to hand me a beer or a coffee or at the food trucks or, even takeout orders. Now, what's the rule on the takeout orders here? My personal rule is, for the most part, I wouldn't tip on a to-go order. Now, there's a couple of mom and pop, blue collar restaurants around me. There's a Mexican restaurant near me. There's a Chinese restaurant. I might give $1 or $2. But I'm not tipping on a to-go order from Chili's. Drive-thrus. I'm not tipping on a drive-thru. I get coffee at Dunkin' a couple times a week. When I'm in the drive-thru and there's the handheld and they hand it to me, the first question is a tip. Well, first off, and this would be a separate conversation, first off, who would get the tip for the Dunkin' order? Because I see the girl in the back and she's making the coffee and then she hands it to the drive-thru girl who hands the coffee to me. Who gets the tip? Does Dunkin' get the tip? I'm not tipping for a Dunkin' order. Subway. You make my sandwich, that's fine. That's part of that's part of their thing. That's part of their, they make it right in front of you. That's part of their little thing that they've been doing for decades. But I'm not tipping for a Subway sandwich. Chick-fil-A, to my knowledge, has never had a tip prompt, but they do bring you your food sometimes. Now, I don't think I would tip at Chick-fil-A even if they offered the prompt, just because it's a fast food restaurant. I'm not tipping at a fast food restaurant. One thing that's always made me laugh is when I go get a haircut, they have a prompt. And on the prompt is default tipping amounts. It used to be, 5, 7, 9, and other, right? And I'll give a standard $5 tip for my haircut, right? If I want a beard trim, I have to pay extra for the beard trim. Okay? I will give a standard $5 tip for a haircut. Now, what I've noticed recently in the past couple years is the defaults have changed. Well, everything has gone up, right? Haircuts have gone up, gas has gone up, groceries have gone up. Well, just because your wages have gone up, their default tipping prompts have went up. It's like 8, 10, 12 and other. Well, just because your wages have gone up doesn't mean my tipping will go up. Now, I know that might be unpopular because we usually base tipping on a percentage, right? That's usually the standard 20%. But in this instance, it's my one exception to the rule. Just because your wages have went up and everything's gone up doesn't mean my tipping has gone up. That's not fair. Um, I've recently seen an article, and I can't remember if it was a restaurant or something, but this restaurant implemented a mandatory 20% tip into their bills. They mandated it. I would never step foot in your establishment if you mandated me to tip, because that's based off performance. What if your service was terrible? What if I found a hair in my food? What if it was cold? What if it was terrible service? What if the wait staff was rude? I would never set foot in a place that mandated a default tipping percentage. That's just not going to happen. ChatGPT says car washes. I don't think I've ever experienced a tipping prompt for a car wash, but that's ridiculous if it's fully automated. I might tip on a hand wash. Now, there's rules within that. I'm paying someone for a service, right? Why should I tip? And that might be an unpopular opinion, but why should I tip for a hand wash on my car? Vending machines, it says. I'm not tipping on a vending machine. That's absolutely ridiculous. Where do we draw the line? We need to take back this, tipping culture that has went over the top. Airport convenience stores, online stores, it says. I don't know if I've ever experienced an online store. I don't think that's true. But my number one rule is if I'm standing up, you do not tip. I need to be wined and dined. You need to do something for me to tip you. And I'll tip fine. If you are good and you're funny and you entertain me, I know that's probably different from everybody else's opinion as far as how to tip, but if you can have a conversation, I'll tip you correctly. I don't think I've ever actually had a bad experience in the retail restaurant world. I'm pretty lenient. I understand that people have bad days. I used to work in retail myself. Customers put you in a bad mood. I get that. I'm not asking you to bootlick me, you know, um, but some decent common courtesy is fine, and I just want the food to be good and accurate, right? Um, I mentioned food trucks. Dude, most of those, I don't know, that's tough on the food trucks because it is a mom and pop, right? Like I just mentioned before. I wouldn't overdo it because it's not a sit down service. If you want to tip, you know, 10%, that's fine. I wouldn't have any problem with that. Um, to support local businesses, I'm completely fine with that. Um, how do we feel about the drive-through roundup? I don't hate it. If my order at Taco Bell is 9.98 and they want me to round up to 10, fine. 2 pennies, right? Who cares? It does kind of get annoying being asked constantly about it. You never know what your money is going to. Not to sound like a prude or sound like I'm heartless, but I've kind of steered away from all that stuff unless I know for a fact that the money is going where it needs to be. I think Arby's has one, Taco Bell has one. It gets kind of annoying, you know. Um, this is this is a unpopular opinion. I've stopped donating. I would never donate to the homeless, a homeless person. Now, I've went and bought them food, but I think there's so many scams out there today that I would refuse to do that, and I would advise for you to do the same thing. There was that video of people playing an instrument in the retail parking lot, and it was a scam. It was maybe a recording, and then maybe they just used that as a way to get by, as they actually needed the money. But still, it's not a good look, right? And I've come to the conclusion that I have bills to pay, and I work a full-time job, and everybody can go get a job. There's unlimited amount of options out there to bring in income. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Let's get through this, what I call tipping culture and the insanity of it. It's gotten way out of hand. But that's all I had today. Just wanted to sign off, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching Titan Culture News. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Check out the rest of the Titan Media Codex family, including Titan Gaming News, Titan Politics, Titan Watch, Titan TV and Movies, Titan Faith, and Titan Muscle. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.